Agriculture has experienced major changes in the last 10 years, particularly on the farmer's part, since I believe he's attempted to improve his management skills in an attempt to lower his cost of production and maintain a satisfactory level of income. This has meant that the farmers in general have changed their attitudes towards farming from, say, being a way of life to an acceptance that agriculture is now a complex industry requiring the application of greater skills in farming technology and agricultural economics. But not only have farmers experienced change, but also the Department of Agriculture. It has developed and extended its research and extension activities to meet the growing need to provide farmers with the answers to many of their complex problems associated with their farming activities. To give you some idea of what the department has done and how it's changed in the last 10 years, if we go back to the end of 1959, the department in the Mid-Coast and Hunter region employed 41 pupils, and at the end of 1969 the total staff number was 68. And to expand a little further, the department is also providing education for young people now. The department has recently acquired the Tokal Agricultural College, and it means also, now that we have this institution, we'll be able to provide a fairly extensive research service for the benefit of the local primary producers.
And finally, Mr Beck, what of the future for farmers of the Lower Hunter?
Well, I think for all farmers, and this will include the vegetable farmers, the dairy farmers and also beef producers, I think that they'll have to continue along much the same lines as they have done in 1960. As we've said earlier, they've developed their skills, they've improved their management, and I feel that this is what they'll have to continue to do in 1970. As far as production is concerned, I think it's very difficult to try and anticipate how production will develop in the 1970s, because production will hinge, of course, on markets, and it's very difficult to say just what markets will be obtained in the next decade.
And what about their incomes?
Well, I think if the farmers continue to improve their skills, I feel that they'll be able to cope very, very satisfactorily. They should be able to keep their cost of production down at a very satisfactory level, and resulting from this, I think they should be able to maintain an adequate income from their farming enterprises.
At the rate the Upper Hunter is developing, and the fact that land is relatively scarce in at least the MIA, which is the main production centre of New South Wales at this stage, it is possible that in, say, 20 years, on a production basis, that the Upper Hunter could overtake the MIA. This is very hypothetical, but it is far more certain, in view of the planting trends that are going on, that the Hunter Upper Hunter and this lower section 2 plantings are expanding at a far more rapid rate than they are in the MIA, and it is expected in only 3 or 4 years now it will overtake the MIA in terms of acreages.
Oh yes, yeah, this is a major problem there because of the rainfall. This is a very high rainfall area around for grape growing around the 29-30 inches, and especially in a year like this, undervine cultivation, row work has been very constant and very time consuming and expensive.
And how long are these trials likely to last?
Well, at least 2 years and probably 3 or 4 to make sure that everything's going as it should be.
Mr. Millis, are plant hormones playing any kind of part in the wine growing industry?
Yes, Jeff. Well, actually, this is another one of the demonstrations I've got going here this year. We're using gibberellic acid, which is a plant hormone, on the Semillon variety. Now, this Semillon variety tends to have a very tight bunch, and you can have a lot of problems with it at vintage with bunch rotting and so on. Now, by applying this gibberellic acid at a certain stage in development of the bunch, you can cause the bunch to be elongated to about twice its normal length. And so this means that you can get far better control of this bunch rotting. And we feel that this could have an important bearing here.
Will this be a boost of production at all?
Well, it's not a boost in production, it's just a safeguarding of the crop that you have. Normally, you can say that 1 year in 10 you'll have a bad problem with bunch rotting, and this spray will overcome this 1 year in 10.
Well, Jeff, the developments in increasing plantings of wine grapes in Australia that you mentioned, and also the Hunter Valley, are exciting, but equally exciting, if not more so to us, are the developments occurring in the culture of these wine grapes.
Now, what are some of these changes likely to take place here at Pacalban and the Upper Hunter?
Well, in the Pacalban area, we're finding now that the vines are growing far more vigorously than they have in the past. This is largely because the use of Bordeaux mixture has been replaced by less harmful sprays, and there is now potential to use this extra foliage. One of these methods is by changing our trellising. We are going to turn to wider trellises and higher trellises to expose this foliage more favourably to the sunlight available, and this sort of situation will also go on in the Upper Hunter. Probably more so in the Upper Hunter because they will be using an association with these trellises trickle irrigation. This is a relatively new form of irrigation developed in Israel, and it is very suited to the type of country we have in the Hunter Valley, which is slightly undulating. This rules out the use of furrow irrigation, and it's necessary to use some sort of pressure irrigation. Trickle irrigation seems to be the answer in view of its low cost. It also places water very nicely right at each vine, right where we want it, and there should be no trouble with trickle irrigation in the Upper Hunter in achieving the sort of yields that growers are expecting of up to 5 to 6 tonnes per acre.
Now, what about harvesting? We haven't seen much change in the harvesting method, like it's still being done by the hand. Now, are there any changes in this line at all?
Well, there are changes around the corner, and in fact they've already started, although not completely on a commercial scale. CSIRO have imported 2 mechanical harvesters developed in the United States. These harvesters are quite big machines and very expensive at this stage, $26,000 odd. But they are used in conjunction with these new type trellises, the wide T but flexible in the centre. This allows the harvester to straddle the row and work on the wires, shaking the fruit from the vine onto a catching frame underneath. But the development of this mechanical harvesting is not completely assured for everyone, because the mechanical harvesters work at a given acreage rate per hour. This means that it may be more economic to pick grapes in the Hunter Valley, such as here where we're in relatively low yielding country of about 2 tonnes per acre, whereas in possibly the area of the Upper Hunter up around 5 tonnes, and certainly in the irrigation areas further inland at 10 tonnes per acre, mechanical harvesting is a must. Yes, the wine industry itself is in an extremely buoyant state. It probably the best it's been since its inception. There was an artificial sort of buoyancy in the early 50s when there was a shortage of beer and other spirits, but this was only temporary. But now we're finding that Australians are really getting to appreciate wines. Quality of wines has improved. Everything's working for the wine industry, and the increase in consumption, I think, will continue to increase, and there's still plenty of room for more development.
Mr. Bridgewater, what does the future hold for the hostel at Mayfield?
I think the future for this hostel is quite bright. As you probably know, the company, Commonwealth Hostels Limited, has realised the inadequacies of some of the hostels they operate, and for the last 2 years have been going ahead with the constructive rebuilding of the poorer type accommodation. There are approximately 9 hostels throughout the country which are being improved in this way, and also 2 hostels which are being completely started from scratch. Now, I think this indicates that Mayfield in particular will get its bite of the cherry. This language problem, of course, is the biggest headache that hostels have got.
These people who arrived today, for example, not one of the 96 speaks English.
No, not one of them. So in that event, I call in interpreters who do a very good job at the hostel, but it is a terrific problem which I feel deserves every attention.
So you're a man with, what, about 70 families, and the crises that can occur in an ordinary family can occur 70 times over for you.
Every time and any time during the day or night. It really is, what shall I say, a man-sized problem.
Mr. Colmar, these people arrive and can speak no English.
No one of them, I would say. All migrants coming here to Mayfield Hostel, they are mostly from Yugoslavia or other European countries, and the major difficulty, would say, is the barrier, the language barrier.
2 lessons a week they get at night to learn English. Is this enough?
For newcomers, I would say it's good enough, because you can start the intensive course here in the hostel, because it's very important the background they are bringing with them.
What are they feeling today, having just arrived a matter of hours ago? What are they concerned about?
I feel that they are very tired the first moment, and they might be concerned about their kiddies first and their families, you know, and the accommodation in the hostel. And
Your department is building flats in Sydney. There are about 100. There are quite a number in Melbourne and Perth and in Tasmania. What about Newcastle?
Well, Newcastle is part of an overall program. At the present time, I think the department has involved itself in something like $2.5 million worth of expenditure on sites and on building acquisitions.
This is in other centres, not here.
This is overall. At the present time, well, you said we have 100 flats in Sydney. I think we have something like 62 in Victoria, and 30 odd in Perth.
Now, these are entirely separate from hostels.
These are entirely separate from hostels. They're built away from the hostel situation altogether.
How great is the migrant turnover in Newcastle?
This is rather a difficult one to say. We can measure it perhaps through this hostel, where we have, or where Mr. Bridgewater has something like 400 to 450 maximum capacity, and the average turnover through the hostel, the average stay in the hostel is 3 to 6 months.
Because they leave the hostel doesn't necessarily mean they leave Newcastle.
Not at all. It could well and truly mean that they're being absorbed in the community. But if you give yourself a certain level of employment capacity here, and the hostel is remaining at its full capacity during that time, then there must be a measurable movement away from this region that ties in with the capacity of the hostel to hold the people as they come in.
Are they single men that are tending to move away, or more married couples?
More the single man.
The same old story.
Yes, he's new in the country and he finds that employment is easy. He perhaps is not even used to being able to make his own decision about where he'll move and where he'll work in the places that he's come from.
So that some immigration department flats might be a little bit of a help to maintain a workforce?
Yes, because these will be aimed naturally at the family, not at the single man. And
this is what the employer wants.
This would assist the employer. We are concerned too to have a more stable situation ourselves.
Actually, you're providing to a market in much the same way as somebody producing a consumer good, aren't you?
Well, we think of it more that we're providing a situation for people rather than we're supplying a market. That's rather a cynical way, I think, to look at it.
Perhaps so, but basically employers say they want people of a type, and I presume your department looks overseas for people to fulfill these.
Well, of course, this is the overall pattern. We couldn't possibly, in any conscience, recruit people overseas unless we knew where we could place them. There must be a job opportunity for them, and of course there must be some sort of accommodation opportunity for them. And this is a balanced program. We've always worked on this idea that we will have a job situation and an accommodation situation that they can move into.